All right, everyone, we are talking about Tyler Perry's new show entitled Caught Up, starring my boo, Jasmine, or technically you know her better as Deja, but Jasmine Brown, who portrays a character named Jazzy in this series. She also plays her own cousin, I believe, Toya, and I figured that with each episode being about 20 something minutes each, essentially Zatima length, and there's only 4 of them, I figured it would be rather redundant to do separate episode reviews. So I figured I would do one video where I kind of broke it down into 4 parts. My overall thoughts on the series as a whole. Then I'll talk about the episodes, maybe highlight some characters, and then end the video by asking the question, should this get a season 2? And I'm going to follow a similar formula when I do a video about the Michael Blackson show. Last night was pretty busy. I'd say about for 4 hours, I watched all 3 episodes of last week's House of Pain, all 4 episodes of the Michael Blackson show, and then all 4 episodes of Caught Up, which means that this week, thankfully, is going to be a lot easier on me because I only need to focus on House of Pain and Zatima. So, when it comes to Caught Up, I thought it was okay. Now, I think for me, what really kind of made the series seem, wait, what? Was after I saw the first 10 minutes. I think they did like a 10-minute sneak peek on the BET YouTube channel. I did a video on that too. They gave fans pretty much the first half of episode 1, where we meet Jazzy, we meet Wayne. He's showing her the house that he bought her, and from there we are introduced to her parents, and we get to meet her work crew, and that's pretty much it. But I think that after reading the synopsis for the series and looking at the first 10 minutes, I'm like, this feels like a copy and paste of Andy and Gary's relationship on Sisters, how it started as an affair and, whatever toxic phase they're in right now. And the thing that I kept saying to myself as I watched the series was, this is exactly like the Jasmine spinoff that I pitched way back in like 2019 or 2020. I did a very detailed video about how I think there should be like a Jasmine spinoff, and I'm talking Crystal Lee Naomi, Jasmine on Sisters. Do like a Jasmine spinoff, but it's going to be fans getting to know more about Gary's marriage, and then eventually how he met up with Andy and whatnot. That would have been a great way of fleshing out the characters. Not to mention this huge scheme where you have Morris involved, Bellamy. Then when what was her name? Leslie, I believe that was the private eye that Jasmine hired to look after Gary. There was a lot of potential there. And then when you look at this show, wait a minute, we don't have Jasmine, but we have a Jasmine Brown portraying a character named Jazzy, which I believe is another way of just saying Jasmine. Then you have her being in an affair with a professional athlete, which Gary was before he got into the world of, finances. And then she's in a situation where she's being showered with extravagant gifts. And the man that she's having an affair with is conflicted on if he wants to stay with his, college sweetheart / fiance who has a child by him and a second one on the way. And I'm like, this is exactly what they did in Sisters. What the heck? But I will admit, this show did a great job in terms of montages, because we only knew about how Andy and we only knew about how Andy and Gary started. What was it? The episode where Jasmine confronts Andy at her job, and Andy gives the full story about how their affair started and whatnot. And that was it. We only got to hear about it. At least in this show, they did a great job doing flashback sequences where we see exactly how Jasmine and Wayne met and what led to them getting to where they are now. I did appreciate that. Not to mention, this show did a great job of implementing social media, like talking about text messaging, online dating, this, that, and the third. So I do feel like there were some aspects of this show that did work better than how they tried to implement it in Sisters. But like I said, if you've watched Sisters and you're accustomed to Tyler Perry stuff, this really doesn't feel like anything fresh or new, you know? But when it comes to the characters, I think what made this show kind of work for me was that the cast doesn't feel that big. People that come on screen, I don't feel like there were a lot of wasted scenes. And it wasn't like Jazzy had a group of friends we constantly see her with, like on Sisters. The only real friend group we see her with are her co-workers. You know, we get a few scenes at the club that she works at. And if you notice, you know, I'm about 6 minutes in this video and I'm doing my best to be as unbiased as possible towards my, you know, obvious attraction to Jasmine Brown. I'm being very, you know, like I got my, you know, commentator hat on, like, okay, I watched the series last night. Here's my attitude towards it, because I think it's safe to assume we all know she's fine as hell. But in terms of the story itself, each episode, you know, the first episode did a decent job establishing the characters. The second episode did a decent job of, I guess you could say, laying out how these two met, which, if I'm not mistaken, it was the back half of episode 1 where we learned that, you know, one day Jasmine was working her job at the club and Wayne came in and she was working the table, and from there his guy came back after they left to get her information, and they went out to a diner and just got to know each other. So from there, it's funny, the first episode ends with her getting up in the morning, and I did love her dynamic with her parents. Yeah, her mom was a bit strict, and I didn't grow up with that ethnicity. I was like Caribbean or something, so they're very strict. Like, you know, whenever she curses or whatever, I did feel like it's a bit much. It's like, your daughter is in her late 20s possibly, you just slapping her across the face like that. I thought that was pretty messed up, but you know, hey, parents, right? So essentially, her dad's reading newspaper, and on the front page, Wayne, it's announced that he got engaged to Whitney, and she's like, what the F? And then the episode ends. So she's crying in episode 2, wondering like what in the world is going, you know, wrong. She's just ignoring Wayne's calls and whatnot. And from there, we learn about Whitney. Essentially, these two were college sweethearts. She comes from money, but unfortunately, her parents, you know, really weren't there for her emotionally and whatnot, or lovingly. She was pretty much just passed off to a nanny. And she made a vow, like, if she ever became a parent, she would be there for her kid. And, you know, yeah, she got money, but rather than getting a nanny, she would be there for her kids every step of the way. And, you know, Wayne, you know, being an up and coming, professional athlete, he was like, hey, you know, if you ever leave school and want to focus on, you know, the family and whatnot, I'll take care of you. So Whitney did leave college, which she was very good at, you know, because she got pregnant, and Wayne vowed to take care of her. So apparently Jazzy never knew exactly how, you know, close the two were in terms of one day they would be engaged. It was pretty much where at first everything was peaches and cream between the two, but eventually Whitney got to the point where she was focused more on being a mom than, you know, a loving partner, if you will. Wayne would work hard, you know, at the gym, putting in hours or playing the game. And then after, you know, a hard day's work, he'd come home and his girl wouldn't want to even have him touch her. So it's one of those situations where, hey, you know what? If my woman tells me no a certain amount of times, I'll go out and find another woman who will tell me yes. And, you know, being a professional athlete, he had a lot of options, but eventually he fell for Jazzy. So from there, he wants to meet up with Jazzy to talk about the engagement and whatnot. And she eventually goes to the hotel or wherever they're at. And while she's apprehensive towards him, I will admit the whole boot on the car thing was hilarious. I've only been to Georgia once when I was a kid to visit my uncle with some family. So I've heard stories about the boot. I think Kev on Stage, the online comedian, he talked about how when he was on tour in Georgia, him and some of his people had to experience the boot thing. It's like, we parked our car, and when we turned around after like a few seconds, the boot was right there. And it's like, wait, what? So when Jazzy got out of her car, and then she was like, you know what, I'm going to go. And it's like, wait, how did this boot get here? And then, you know, Wayne wanted to explain, and I ain't mean to rhyme that, but, you know, eventually, you know, Jasmine gives in, and then they do it raw. And she's going to the store the next morning to get the morning after pill, but then she runs into his fiance, and it just so happens she's there with some pregnancy tests. So she rushes to her car, and then she's on the phone with her cousin, And the thing about Toya, or Tanya, is it Toya or Tanya? I forgot. But essentially her cousin, who's played by Jazzy as well. She is the comedic element of the series, but what I liked about her compared to, let's say, Maurice and whatnot from Sisters is the fact that we don't spend a lot of time with her. She's in the episodes just long enough to provide some comic relief, and that's it. And also, I get a Garfield feeling from watching this show, how we get some inner monologue from Jasmine during certain moments where she's talking with someone or, just thinking about something, where she says one thing, but we get her inner monologue. I think that really helps add to the comedic aspect of the show. So, after seeing the Rolls Royce and whatnot, she's kind of, gassed up by her cousin not to take the morning after pill. You better stay pregnant, get that money and whatnot. So then in episode 3, it's Jazzy's birthday. Kind of funny, just like in episode 1 of Sisters, it was Andy's birthday. And lo and behold, what did Gary have for her? A cupcake. And, she actually runs into this guy named Darius, who, if I'm not mistaken, he does not show up for the rest of season 1. Because later on in, what was it? Episode 4, she meets a new love interest, but that's episode 4. So, she's out for her own birthday, and my birthday is tomorrow, by the way. I have nothing planned. No, I'm just serious. I have nothing planned. So she took money out of her savings account. I believe her parents are on vacation or something, so they aren't at the house. It's just her. So she's going out doing some shopping, going for a massage and whatnot. And then she bumps to this guy who helps her get her things. His name is Darius, and he's attracted to her and asks if you have social media. And that just goes to show how different times are now, as opposed to saying, "Hey, can I get your number?" It's like, "Hey, you got social media? Can I follow you?" And that's pretty much it. I thought he would be someone who might be a potential rival, if you will, for Wayne. But, I mean, that's not to say he can't be, but it just doesn't seem likely. So, in any case, during the massage, she has a conversation with the masseuse about the situation. It's hours she's in there, and she tells the whole story about Wayne. And, she kind of gets called out for it's kind of ridiculous. You talk about how this guy said he loved you and whatnot. He got engaged to someone else, and then you went over to basically have sex with him. And now you're contemplating what to do about the morning after pill. So in any case, he gives the advice to say, you know what, how about this? A way to tell if this guy's really into you or if he's just playing you, tell him that you're pregnant to see how he reacts. If he's surprised but kind of excited, that means he loves you. But if he's shook by it and he's like, wait a minute, so, what do you mean you're pregnant? That means he's playing you. So from there, she's going to work and the girls there help her celebrate. Even the one who's a bit nosy gives her a good chunk of money from a table that she's waiting on. So that was pretty cool. And in any case, Wayne is waiting out. This is a running gag. This dude is essentially Gary, just stalking this woman. He's waiting outside, by his car and gives her the cupcake and whatnot. And something that happens a lot is anytime these two are having a big moment, like in episode 1, hey, Jazzy, here's a new house for you. Or, hey, let's go to my car and talk. Every time they're talking, he gets a phone call from Whitney, usually in regards to their 3-year-old son. So he usually has to step out of the car to take the, call. And then Jazzy gets fed up and just leaves. So when he does rush after her, basically she's like, F off, and then drives off. So then after she comes from the gym one day, he steps out while he's waiting outside of the store. Wait, are you stalking me? No, I'm not stalking you, but your schedule is kind of predictable. So, you're very consistent. And I'm like, bro, that's essentially stalking. But, he's like, I gotta tell you something. Well, I had to tell you something. You first. No. You came all the way down here. You tell me. So Wayne actually gets shook because Jazzy goes first to say I'm pregnant. And he's like, whoa, wait. So are you sure it's mine? Oh, it's like that. You disrespect me, and I don't mean to disrespect you, but there are a lot of guys at the job. You're the only man I've been effing, Wayne. So what are you going to do? It's like, I can't deal with this right now. There's a lot going on. And it's kind of funny because in the next episode, we find out that his Whitney's actually pregnant with baby number 2. But that's in the next episode. But essentially, after work, yet again, Wayne is waiting outside, and it's like, look, you need to get in the car so we can talk about it. So yet again, he gets on the phone and she leaves. And also when she gets home, she does take the morning after pill. So she wants to make sure that baby's gone. So I will say this much. I'm no expert in this, but just because you take the pill, does that automatically mean it's gone? I mean, it is within, I don't know the time frame, 24 hours or so. Like I said, I don't know. But essentially, there's this thing, and ironically enough, episode 3 is called A Love Poem, because he did give Jazzy flowers, the cupcake, and a little box or something that had the letter in it. And her whole thing was she didn't give a damn. She wasn't going to open it. But eventually, after taking the pill, she does. She opens the letter. There's $5 grand in there because she was in her feelings, because her entire birthday, Wayne never called or texted her at all. And she was in her feelings about that. And when he did see her outside of the club, it was already past midnight. So it's like, look, my birthday was yesterday. But the letter say, hey, here's $5 grand to buy yourself something nice. And, I just love you so much. And the way I wanted to express myself was through this poem. And then she begins crying. And that leads to episode 4, entitled Complicated. So the episode starts off with Jazzy calling in to like a podcast or something with a Kevin Samuels-esque host. And basically, after explaining the entire situation with Wayne, she gets called out for the situationship that she's in. Well, if I'm not mistaken, Jazzy and Wayne, it's fitting that there are two of you because it's Dumb and Dumber. So pretty much, after expressing, everything that's been going on, yeah, it does sound very dumb. So from there, at work, there is a rapper in Jazzy's section named Lil Smoke, aka Terrence, the real name. So he's attracted to her, and with the help of the bodyguard, they do seem a bit pushy. It's like, if you with me, don't be texting nobody else or anything like that. But she does give him her phone number, and then she leaves to get back to work. So Wayne is actually woken up by his cousin. I'm trying to see if I got his name here. I don't remember if they said his name in the actual episode itself. On IMDb, I do believe the character is called Dooley, Dooley. So this is Wayne's cousin, and Wayne tells him about the situation with Jazzy, and he's like, you need to tell her to get rid of that kid because of the fact that, don't mess up everything you worked for. But he doesn't want to lose Jazzy. And later on in the episode, he's talking with another one of the teammates of his, and they're discussing side chicks and whatnot. And, Wayne is yet again called out for being dumb, for slipping up and letting somebody get pregnant. And on top of that, apparently he actually does love Jazzy. So it's like, look, you need to go to her and put her in her place and let her know what position she's playing. So later on, Jazzy gets a call from Lil Smoke, and they go to have a 8 p.m. seafood date, and turns out they're having a pretty good time, just talking, getting to know each other and whatnot. And Terrence doesn't act like the person that he appears to be. Like, he used to be a nerd back in the day, but after moving with his parents, he got on the street and whatnot, and he was able to make it out, but he was able to kind of reinvent himself. So from there, it's 1 a.m. They're at his place having a jam session, listening to some of his music and whatnot. And she's like, oh, I gotta go. What is 1 a.m.? And, based on their first interaction when he was really pushy and whatnot, he actually is a gentleman. It's like, hey, you know what? Let me get my coat and I'll walk you to your car. So from there, we go over to Whitney talking to Wayne, and it turns out that she's pregnant with baby number 2, and he's sweating and whatnot. He's kind of freaking out, and he's like, oh, no, it's nothing wrong. It's just that, I didn't really have the best relationship with my parents, and, I just want to make sure I'm the best father I can be. And she comforts him, and it's like, damn, because he's worried that, he has two women pregnant at the same time. So from there, Toya calls Jazz, and, again, comedic situation as always, just a rundown of what's going on with the two of them. And from there, we go over to the second date that Lil Smoke has with Jazzy, because, he was thinking about her all night, and he actually gives her like a bracelet, some jewelry, and she makes a weird face at him, because this is almost exactly what happened with Wayne. They met at her job, they go out, they have a good time, And then eventually she's presented with some sort of bracelet or whatever, some form of jewelry. And it almost feels like deja vu, because it's like she is thinking about Wayne the entire time, but Lil Smoke is, just saying all the right things, and she's feeling, really good about it. So from there, she's like, hey, can you take me back to my place? He's like, yeah, okay. So she gets some text from Wayne, and she's eventually like, look, you need to stop blowing up my phone. I took the morning after pill. You have nothing to worry about, because Wayne is, parked outside somewhere just trying to get in contact with her. So then Lil Smoke's like, wait, who you texting? It's like, look, don't do that. It's like, okay, never mind. So he does take her home, but, again, they're just talking in the car. He seems to be a gentleman, and eventually she's like, hey, you know what? Let's go up to my place. Wait, are you sure? Yeah. So they start, getting it on, and Wayne ends up banging on the door. And then the episode ends with Lil Smoke like, who that? And it's like, wait a minute. So that's pretty much how it ends. Now, that's the series as a whole, all 4 episodes. So what did I think? Like I said, in a lot of ways, it just felt like a rinse and repeat of Sisters in terms of the Gary and Andy storyline. I think would really work for this show. I mentioned before, like, some of the comedic stuff really works. I love the family dynamic between Jazzy and her folks. And I guess the main question to ask is, was this series able to tell a compelling enough story within the first 4 episodes to, have fans going, I want more. I want a season 2. My answer is yes. I would not be against a season 2, or at least even another 5 or so episodes, even 6, just to make it a, solid 10. I think that there are some things I'm like, I don't think this was handled right, but at the same time, it's only 4 episodes. It's like, okay, so Jazzy got the house in episode 1, but it's never really brought up again. She talks about how she has a new house with her co-workers. They're like, oh, we need to have a housewarming party, but if memory serves, we never see her over at that house. I mean, you could argue, well, between the new fiance and whatnot he has, it makes sense that she wouldn't, move or, stay at the house. That's true. But then you also have the character of Darius, who I thought would be a potential love interest, kind of like Robin on Sisters. But no, he's only seen in that one moment where he bumps into Jazzy at the beginning of episode 3, I believe. But he's never seen or mentioned again. And Lil Smoke, yeah, that was a pretty interesting way of taking someone who is like, you don't judge a book by its cover. Like, this guy seems like, a thug and whatnot, but when you really get to know him, he's a sweet dude. So with Wayne, he's very, Gary-like in terms of playing multiple women at one time, essentially playing the field like, he is, because he's an athlete. But I think that this show, it was alright. If I had to give it a score, I would probably give it like a 6 out of 10. Like I said, I'm trying my hardest to be as unbiased as possible. But, in reality, I mean, there are just, I really would like to see what Tyler Perry could do with this show to truly make it stand out from the rest. Because, like I said, it is definitely a show I can see a lot of people comparing to the likes of a Sisters, or to a lesser extent as a Team on the relationship department. But I would want to see the show just a little bit more to see if Tyler Perry can, change it up. Like I said, I did like the family dynamic, which is something we don't often get to see in these shows. Someone who is in their 20s, they're living with their parents, and it just feels real. The prospect of, not being where you want to be in life, so you have to do what you have to do. Like, hey, working a job at this club that, your mom says you'll go to hell for, but it's like, look, hey, it's something. Being in a situation where you aren't the only love interest to somebody that you really care for, but it's like, hey, I'm with somebody who really loves me, and I'm getting some perks from it, like extravagant gifts and whatnot, and I could be doing worse. Or is it better to find someone who will give you attention, affection, and whatnot, and you're his and his alone, and vice versa? That's a very, very real subject matter in today's, time. And it's like they say, people who usually don't have a lot of options, but when they come up in life financially or whatever, the options open up. So they're going to explore things like, hey, I want to date like a bunch of women at one time, or try things I never tried before. And then the question of, just because someone that you are with isn't giving you all the love and affection that you need, doesn't make it right or understandable why you stepped out on them. So it's just one of those things where I really would like to see if there is something, a spark that sets this show out from the rest, if it were to get a season 2. So yeah, I would be interested to see where the story is going. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below on Caught Up. Have you caught up with the series? Haha, pun intended. What did you think of the show? I think the theme song, it's no Zatima or Ruthless. It's a little bit of a bop, but you know, it's relatively short, you know, so it just comes and goes. So there really isn't enough time to catch there isn't enough time to really have anything to dissect from it. It just comes and goes, and then we get on with the episode. You know, Jazzy's dynamic with her coworkers is pretty good. You know, we don't really get a lot of scenes with them. I feel like we get more scenes of them walking out of work and Wayne is waiting for her in the parking lot than we actually see them on the job. We do get a few moments where we see them at the counter, or you know, in the back room getting ready to go out there. So you know, you got the ones who are her best gal pals, you got the one who's the gossip, the nosy one. It's pretty all right. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like and subscribe. And oh yeah, also just to wrap it up, again, just kudos to Tyler Perry, regardless of how I feel about the show. Just kudos to him for giving people opportunities. If I'm not mistaken, this is Jasmine Brown's, you know, like first series. I don't want to say this is like her first TV appearance, obviously, because as Deja, she popped up in Zatima and Sisters, but this may have been one of those examples where Tyler saw potential in one of the actors and figured, you know what, let me give you something to work with. Let me give you like this show or movie. And kind of like with Crystal, it was probably a situation where, hey, I'm going to give you like a little bit of something, and if you do your best with it and it blows up, I'm going to give you more. Kind of like, you know, with Fatima having just a few appearances in season 1, then she became a recurring character. So when it came to Jasmine, it's probably like, hey, I want to give you this new series, I want to give you just a handful of episodes, and if it blows up, then we'll extend it. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool, really cool. But like I said, I really keep sitting here like, this is my Jasmine spinoff. This is my Jasmine spinoff. So that's all I have. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next video.